So this is A Quiet Place, and it's a unique screenplay because obviously there's hardly any dialogue. I've got the IMDb page here. So the log line is: a family struggles for survival in a world where most humans have been killed by blind but noise-sensitive creatures. They are forced to communicate in sign language to keep the creatures at bay. Who's seen the film? Has everyone seen the film?
Yes, I've seen the
I
film.
did.
Yeah.
I actually just read the
No?
screenplay because so I wanted to read like before I watched it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which I've never actually done before. Like read a screenplay before viewing the film.
Yeah.
Which one do you prefer? Watching the film, reading the screenplay, or first reading the screenplay and then watch the film?
Reading the screenplay and then watching the film.
Yeah, so with the screenplay, is that like you can compare the screenplay, you can read the screenplay, and then when you watch the film, you can see if it's what you saw in your head or not. I feel like you can learn quite a lot by reading the screenplay first. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I would say that's kind of why I wanted to read the screenplay before, because in a way it's an adaptation, right? So just something that I thought would be useful.
Yeah.
And I still haven't watched the film for this one. In fact, I've only read the 68-page screenplay. I don't know where you guys sourced the longer one. But you have
That's my fault.
That's okay. I mean, it's interesting. It just totally opens up different. What's the difference? Like, it's just like an earlier draft.
I don't know. One literally opens up in the town, which is how the film starts, I think. So I think this one, the longer version, is more accurate.
It seems, yeah.
Because this is definitely the first one. Because I know some people might think this is part 2, but I'm pretty sure this is part 1. And this one, this is the earlier version. It starts on a hilltop in a farmhouse.
That's the one I read.
Okay.
This one.
Me too.
Yeah, me
too.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll talk about this one more then. Before we look at the opening page, what do you guys think is the purpose of the way you format a screenplay? Because obviously this screenplay, there's hardly any dialogue. There's going to be lots of action lines. Like, what do you guys think is the purpose of formatting it in a certain way when you're reading a screenplay or writing one? Has anyone got any thoughts?
Well, the most basic level, you're trying to tell a story, and then the format is supposed to explicitly like map out how the conditions of like the environment, and then how and those, right, and then the people or the actors that map out their dialogue and their back and forth. So I don't really know how to extrapolate more, but in the most elementary sense of it. And then depending on the draft, right, there's like camera direction.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. It is.
All I got.
There's kind of like a rule, like a way to format your screenplay, and I think when you're like writing on a screenwriting software, it naturally formats it in a certain way. But the reason why I asked the question was because the way this screenplay is formatted, and the other one, the one that we'll go to in a minute as well, there's pages that you guys probably notice. There's certain pages that doesn't format it in the right way. Did anyone else notice that? Yeah.
I know Randall said he didn't like it much, but I love that aspect of it.
Yeah. Yeah, we can discuss about if the screenplay is good or not, actually, because I personally think it's good, but we can talk about that in a minute.
Yes, no, nothing. Just about what you said before, for formatting in general. I think about visual ergonomy. It's my main concern. Visual ergonomy. You are never lost with the scene change on the paragraph. I group paragraph with thematic rather than put too much blank line. It's not easy for the eyes. And too much line in a paragraph isn't easy for the eyes too. And then I use some little trick for the pace, changing the pace. Like in this page, we have the ... and it gives us a feeling of time. I use this kind of thing, but visual ergonomy is important.
Yes, you want
The
to,
ellipses, yeah, that's great. I'm sorry, visual economy. It's a great.
yeah, and
Which I had a thought, not to interrupt, but I had a
Yep.
thought about that because this particular screenplay, I think at a certain point, you know, to give a little like reprieve for the eye, the visual, like they started to use actual visuals, right? So like the Monopoly board and things like that to, I don't know. I mean, I've never seen that in a screenplay.
Okay, so yeah, so it's all about the visuals, being able to see the film in your mind, the way it's being written. So what I'll do, I'll just quickly read this first part, and then we can quickly discuss if this is good or not, if this works, if you can see the film in your head, okay? And then we'll compare it to the other screenplay. So Black, we hear very clearly the sound of light wind. Exterior town, Main Street, late afternoon. We come up on ... a street light. There is no illumination and no movement. We hold on it for a long moment when suddenly the streetlight bobs and then begins to sway. We slowly begin to rise up on the streetlight to reveal a small bird has landed on it. We continue to rise to reveal behind the bird, wind blows through the gargantuan evergreens that seem to engulf the narrow main street of a small town in upstate New York. Shop windows and cars on either side covered in dust. The place seems frozen in time. There is no movement. In the very middle of the road, one can see sand, a bizarre incongruity, a long pathway about a shovel's width run the full length of the street with offshoots into the open doorways of some of the shops. We hold for a long moment. Okay, so that's the opening paragraph. What was there anything good about this in this opening here, or is there anything bad that you didn't like about this? The way it was written, the structure, the formatting. What did you guys think?
I personally feel like the description is like a bit long. I also get that because it's like not like a dialogue screenplay, that there's gonna be like more description.
Yeah, it's quite chunky, isn't it? And I think at first glance it doesn't look very good. Maybe. What do you? I don't know. Do you think when you look at this, you think it might be a bit intimidating to read?
So I like very much about how to put that in the page. If I write it, maybe I won't do it exactly like that. I will
No.
use the line break, but it doesn't matter on the wall. The writer use the camera. He doesn't say it, but he use the camera and he do it in a natural way. Instead, he use we. So we are on the eyes of the camera and we are driving in the page like we are driving in the movie we see. So I found that pretty good. And it's a whole atmosphere, and of course it's also made in a way the scene is enough long and loud for a kind of heavy mood coming and some anguish into this.
Yeah, really good points actually. And I think because it doesn't use camera angles, but you can imagine where the camera's pointing without, because writing camera angles is a big no in screenwriting. Apparently, you're not supposed to write camera angles and camera shots and techniques unless you're like, maybe you're the writer director, maybe you can do that. But if you're just the screenwriter, you kind of have to leave that for the director. So when you write it, the way it's written here, you can, without using camera directions, you can see where the camera is. So for example, it says we come up on a street light. So clearly the film opens looking directly at a street light, like almost in a close-up. There's no illumination, ... and no movement. So it's a very slow start. Like there's not lots of cuts. All the ... is like clearly it's supposed to be for atmosphere, this part. We hold on it for a long moment when suddenly the street light bobs. So just from that first, couple of lines, the camera's just going to be holding on the streetlights without using the word camera. Does that make sense? So just by the way it's written, you can see the film, and then begins to sway. We slowly begins to rise up on the streetlight. So yeah, rise up. So the camera moves. Small bat has landed on it. We continue to rise to reveal behind the bird. Wind blows through the gargantuan evergreens. So yeah, this opening, it's you read it slowly, but that's the feeling you get when you're watching the film. It's supposed to be slow. So I think these thick paragraphs that you were saying, Randall, it might be hard to read, but I think that's the point of it, isn't it? Because that's how the film is supposed to start. And then if you
Yes. So yeah, I have a little detail. I do like Inspector Colombo. You know, you have this sentence: "A small bird has landed on it." As you know, we don't use past tense
no,
in screenplay, but he chose to do that here.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can make that in another way, but it would maybe not a clear way, or it will be long to do so. It's really more simple to just say the truth with a small sentence like that, explaining everything. The bird had landed.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. And what about this bit? When we go to this next bit, there's bits in bold. Do you think that's kind of a technique you're allowed to do in screenwriting? Does it work? Why do you think they put certain words in bold, do you think? So it says to the left, a cash register with small shelves of nearly empty candy boxes below. Sorry, Said.
Yeah, it's no, I was saying that the emphasizing something that happens in screenplay and dialogue. So I think it's kind of it's a loud word if it helps to convey the feeling and the imagery. So I think, for example, none are missing, like the potato chips. So the antagonist of the film, the aliens, so they have like this super hearing power.
Oh yeah.
So, for example, when it, for example, as a sample, when it's aims the potato chips, because it makes so much sound, you know, opening the bag and eating the chips. So if we go, like, you see all the shelves are all empty as a kind of a post apocalyptic
Yeah.
way, but
Yeah.
you see the shelf are, for example, our potato chips are fully full, because like if they would open the potato chips, the aliens would come. So yeah, I believe like we should remember something also, guys. Like this screenplay has been written by John Krasinski, and like, for example, stars like Emily Blunt was in the project at the beginning. So in
Yeah.
so many ways, they don't have to work by the rules like we do. Yeah,
Right.
like most of the time we're like nobodies, and like we have to write a screenplay exactly by the rule, because our readers that they read the screenplays, and if they do not like what we want, it doesn't give us that kind of a freedom. But for people, for stars actually, and like big names that are backing them up, they can do whatever they want to do, because they're gonna wind up, you know, the creator of the film. I mean, like John Krasinski wrote the screenplay, played in it, and if I'm not wrong, was he? I think he was included in the directing also. So
Yeah, it was, I think.
it's a bit different. Like
Okay.
they actually they can do whatever they want, because in the end, guys, there are no rules. So this
There
is
isn't.
why, yeah.
But
Yeah.
I would argue though, if you're a new screenwriter and you want to get your first screenplay sold, do you think doing these extra little techniques, and if we go down to, for example, I think it's page 7, like at the bottom of page 7, there's loads of bold writing, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
once again, only the wind can be heard, black, like big fonts, and
yeah.
then you have this one page, all this white space just for this. So you think
Yeah.
if a newbie screenwriter did this, people wouldn't take them seriously? Do you think?
So this is a hard thing to say. So different people would have different reactions.
Mhm.
I cannot say, for example, oh yeah, they would condemn. No, that's not what gonna happen. But it's not safe to do. It's something, because especially for people like me, far away, when we write the screenplays, we have no effect. We have no way of pursuing that reader but our screenplay. So I would argue that the safest thing is to stay on the rule. And if you want to make if you want to make something bold, if you want to do something different, maybe focus on the imagery, focus on the page graph, focus on concise, vivid, clear, strong sentences. This is more affecting that. For example, doing something like this, they can do that, as I told you, because like all the stars, all the Hollywood big ones supporting the project. But for us, I'm not really sure. And Sarah wanted to say something.
Oh, go on, Sarah.
Yeah, so the only.
Oh yeah, I just have a different perspective on this because, well, there's two things happening here. This screenplay is not like a typical screenplay, so I wouldn't say that the rules would definitely. I think it needed something to engage you and carry you through, and whether it's like ellipses to slow you down as a reader, to pace you, or like a visual image to continue with your attention to it, or whatever it was. And just like that, like I don't think that any other script could be written like this if it weren't like a horror thriller, right? Because just like the genre of that it is an intimate thing, and that's what this
it demands it. It kind of demands it. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
So like there's that aspect, but the other part about what Saida was saying, and I don't. Okay. So I come from a different world where only about a year ago I started writing screenplays. I didn't know anything about it,
cool.
But I was writing, right? So I was trying to bring my prose into, so I was like harping on those rules so much. And then when I started to read screenplays, I was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. Like just talk to your audience, which I think is what's beautiful about this piece is that, is there a reason or a rhyme to why it's done? Yeah. In this piece, we can talk about it and say that's the reason. But for, with practice, in terms of practice and writing, if you need to get into that space of like creating the visuals in a very clunky, prosy way, which is my struggle, and then I have to reduce it as I go on and make sure it's more actionable, then I don't think you should. I think for me, it was holding me back. So I think anybody should feel like a freedom to be able to write, of course, within the constraints of an industry standard, not to totally disregard that, but then, make it depends, that's my personal perspective on it. It could be different for somebody who's already kind of, their methods are, they have a more methodical approach, and it's very, I don't know. What I'm trying to say is that I don't holistically agree on just because somebody is in a different area in their life and earning more money, that they are more advantageous with the rules, with not following the rules. I think if you want to be heard, you don't shy under those rules, try to break free a little bit so you can get your point across. I guess that's the line.
I agree. Because it can hold you back if you take it too seriously about what you can and can't do, I think. And if it works, in my opinion, I think if it works on the page, anyone should do it. If it works, it works. If that makes sense. So was someone else going to say something?
Yes, Serena wants to say something.
Yes, Serena?
I feel like we shouldn't really take this screenplay in particular as an example, because the whole point of this script is not like the normal script that has dialogue, etc. It's completely different. The theme of the movie itself is completely different. So I don't think we should emphasize too much in this particular screenplay. It is more focused on action rather than dialogue or anything else. That's
a good point. And I think, Sarah, you said it as well, because of the genre the screenplay is in, that's how it was written like this. Is that what you said, Sarah? Because it's like a thriller, horror, that's why you can get away with writing maybe a little bit differently. Because every genre you should write it differently.
It just feels more intimate. Like
Yeah.
You know, when you watch a rom-com, you know, or an
That's very
action
different.
movie, like you're
Yeah.
pretty disassociated from that.
Yeah.
Where
Oh,
it's like a psychological or like something like this, a horror, I feel like it's a more intimate piece.
Mm. Yeah, I
Yes,
agree with you.
so about this title page, so I'm quite open to a lot of experiments, but I have to say the other screenplay really I couldn't. It was really too much. But here the page still makes sense because you really get the feeling of the title of the movie that flash on the screen. So it's okay, but I wonder more what it means in the screenplay, because if you have a whole page, it means it's 1 minute, and of course
Yes.
the title can be 1 minute. It's more the problem on if you go to the scene we see earlier, because it's interesting. It's a bold characters.
Yeah. Which scene?
The ships. The
Was it
ships.
the one I was? Was it the one that I was on earlier at the top?
Yes, earlier, yes.
Go ahead.
Below, it's the same with the ships. Yes, here.
Yeah.
So you were asking about formatting. Is it okay to do that? I think a lot of things are okay as long the writer is consistent with its own style. I know that because I read Korean drama screenplay, and there is no official format in this. So every writer have some difference. But what I observe when I read that, once the writer shows something, it stick to it during says our episode. So if during a montage you make the cut with 2///,
Mm.
then it's all that in all the screenplay. Another writer, more methodical, make say a number of the cut in the montage. You see,
Yeah.
every writer is consistent with its own thing. So I hope this screenplay is able to do that. But we saw in the other one, it's not the case. It's go in every way possible. Now about this scene, why he bold, empty, and no one are missing? Well,
Yeah.
it's really related to the plot. And I think it's important. I think it's okay he did that, because why people take candy, but why they don't take potato chips? First time you read the screenplay,
Right, because of the
it's a
sound.
mystery.
Mm.
Yes,
It's the
but first-
sound. I just got it. But eating potato chips is super loud.
Yeah.
yeah. But you see, if you don't know the story, you see that and wow, it's mysterious. Why? Why? So it's well done, and it's explained why he wanted to bold the word empty, and then the other one, no one are missing.
Mm. Yeah, that's a really good
so
point.
true. Like, I was in the other screenplay, the other version. It was very helpful when they did that with the text. You know, because it told something to me. Like what there was like one about. There was a couple instances of that, and it informed me as an audience member.
Shall we look at the other screenplay then? Shall we start reading this one, and we can start looking how this one's different? So this one is already, you can tell it's formatted a little bit differently. So I've not read this one, so I'm going in this one blind completely, okay? So it starts off with first act. That's quite interesting. I don't usually see that in a screenplay. First act. Why do you think why do you think the screenwriter would write first act? Do you think there's a reason for it?
Maybe this is the earlier option, maybe, of the screenplay, because normally they do not do this. This is like in the path of forming the final draft, that they do the division on the acts. They
Got it.
do not do this on the shooting a script. They do
No.
not this on final draft.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that maybe this is the earlier one.
I think so, because there's less pages on this one as well.
Yes,
Uh,
it looks like a TV series episode because in TV series you have all acts mentioned, and I wonder somehow because the screenplay is very short, it's 1 hour. It's look a
mm.
bit like a series TV episode.
Yeah, it does. It is, isn't it? It literally is. How many pages is this? 60,
68.
60, yeah, 67, 68. Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? So this must have been an earlier version. Okay, so I'll read through the first page and then we can break it down and then we can go to a different page. So it starts off exterior hilltop day. The hilltop is lined with corn, golden and brown, shimmering in the morning heat. There's a structure in the distance. Exterior farmhouse day. A farmhouse built from old lumber. There's no cattle or livestock in sight. Unusual for this fertile land. Interior farmhouse den day. April, 8 years old. So in brackets, the number 8 actually means how old she is. Gazes out the window pane. Nervous, eager, sweet. She has a hearing aid in one ear. And notice how they capitalize it and
Yeah.
underline it. So clearly that's a really important piece of information. And it probably suggests for the director to maybe emphasize on that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they use it, use it in the film, and I just love how they use the sound because there was a time that we hear from April, so we have like the view point of view of a character, right?
Mhm.
This
Yeah.
film we have point of sound.
Yes.
So that is it's so interesting. Oh, and there's something I don't want to buzz here. So Ali and others that have seen the film, something that really was interesting for me about this film that they did not show the alien, the ultimate villain or antagonists until like the near or like in the beginning of the middle of the act two.
Okay.
This is something that has been done by Spielberg in Jaws.
Mm.
We do not see the white killing shark until the beginning of act 3 or like the ending of the second part of act 2.
Yeah.
So this is really interesting that they use this technique in this screenplay also. So we do not see the aliens, we just see the effect of them, just see what
Mm.
it does to the city, what it does to people.
Yeah.
um,
And that's enough. You don't need to see the alien
Yeah,
early
you
on.
don't have to stay. Just make the feeling. Exactly what happened. This also happened in Jurassic Park by Spielberg. You do not see the dinosaurs until like the middle of the first part of Act Two.
Yeah.
Until like you have so much characterization until then about Alan
Yes.
Grant, about her partner, about the visionaries and everything. It's so interesting. Like you do not have to. You not showing the villain, not showing the antagonist, actually makes brings that kind of suspense.
Mm-hmm.
Suspense. When we see them, it's more effective. So this is what Spielberg does in Jaws and Jurassic Park, and I think they have used that technique to make it
Mm.
so good. This is why it's been such a good movie.
Yeah,
Really.
yeah, it works really well. If anyone's writing a monster movie or like a horror movie, think about using this technique. You don't need to show
Yeah,
the monster until the second
you
half.
don't have to show it all the time. Yeah,
Because
something that like in the end, like in the most recent project of Jurassic Park,
oh yeah,
like Ali, when I was watching, because I love Jurassic Park, especially the one that was done by Spielberg. When I
oh
was
yeah,
watching the last one, that Chris Pratt was was the hero of
yeah,
the film,
yeah,
and they made it so sloppy. The
yeah, they did.
way that they showed that big dinosaur, the like big intelligent killer dinosaur, the way that they portrayed the dinosaur was so sloppy.
Mm.
I really hated it. Like, goddamn, learn from the first one.
Learn from the good
Oh,
ones.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
For
I,
interrupt.
I think the most and they say the most the scariest thing is your imagination more than anything
Yes.
else. So
Yeah.
that's why they stretch it out for so long before you see the monster,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
your imagination is going to come up with so many
So
worse
smart.
things than what you'd ever see in person. So you want to stretch out the tension and the suspense for as long as possible before
Yes.
you finally see the monster. I
Exactly.
think that's like a good like suspense technique, and
Yeah.
that's what they got wrong with the newer Jurassic Park films.
Yeah. They
They didn't
just
build it up enough.
Yeah, and even with more techniques, with more CG, with more like you can do a better job than like Spielberg in 90s, but you just wish it away.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Okay, let's keep reading.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go. See if there's any other
So
interesting
these are
parts.
the instances, by the way, when you asked me earlier, like muzzles underline and the things that are very telling when they, whether they underline or capitalize a term,
right.
a word.
Yeah, they use it all the time. It seems like I didn't realize. Look at that, it's everywhere. Like yeah, will. So yeah, she's focused on a tool shed. Why capitalize tool shed? 100 feet away, isolated under a crooked apple tree. Her eyes drift from the shed to her older brother, Will, 10, who stands outside. He sticks his tongue out. She ignores him. This is their dynamic. I like that line. This is their dynamic. So,
Yeah.
in just 4 words, it's telling us that this is nothing new. This is how they work. You know, that this is their relationship.
Yeah.
So it's character building. This is characterization right now in few words. This already reads better than this version. I don't know what you guys think, but this is chunky. But this one is just so much cleaner, I think.
I totally agree. The first one that you opened up, that third paragraph was super clunky and like I couldn't visualize. I was like, okay, there's a shovel's like what's a shovel? Like I had to work a shovel's width, you know, to get to visualize, especially.
Sarah, you're cut out.
Oh, so internet.
Oh, sorry. I was saying that third paragraph was too much of an ask for me to try to like visualize. Okay, well then how wide is the shovel? And then, you know, it just was too clunky.
I agree with you actually. Yeah, about a shovel's width. Like it's making the reader put in more work. And if you're if you write a screenplay like this and you're handing it to someone that you want them to invest in, if they're having to put in more work when reading it, then they're obviously not going to want to invest in it and give you the funding to make the film. You want to make the reader's life effortless as much as possible. And so I don't know if you watched the recording, but we analyzed the screenplay Alien a couple of weeks ago. And the screenplay Alien is a perfect example of how to be really concise with your action lines in a way where you can still see the movie in your head. So if you ever have time, maybe read the screenplay to Alien, and then we've got the recording as well. You can watch back that we were discussing it.
Yeah. Also, Born Ultimatum is a good example
For action, for an action film, yeah, Born Ultimatum.
Yeah, if you want to do a Burn Ultimatum screenplay, well, I'm very okay because I like action movie, and of course I will rewatch the movie on probably read the whole screenplay.
Yeah, yeah. Born Ultimatum is, and what we're going to do, like each time we talk about a screenplay, we're going to pick a different genre because obviously for each genre you write it slightly differently, don't you? So Alien's like thriller horror. Well, this is kind of similar to Alien, but we're looking at this more of like what not to do because it's not quite as well done. So exterior shed. April picks weeds outside the shed. She pockets a purple iris and wipes dirt on her sweater. Will plays nearby with a golden retriever. It wears a muzzle. Exterior driveway. April empties the weeds into a tin trash can. She places the lid back on the trash slowly, ensuring that it doesn't make even the slightest sound. And that bit's underlined because clearly that's the moment in the opening scene we realize something's going on.
This part of a world building, right? This is
it's
like,
world building.
Yeah, this is like our world. So it makes suspense. It makes curiosity at the same time.
You want to, if you're writing a screenplay that takes place in an alternate universe, in a dystopian world or something else, you want to build the environment. You want to build the create the setting as early as possible. Tell the audience, as in my opinion, I think anyway, tell as much as you can to the audience, the world building, because otherwise we'll just get lost very quickly. So for this screenplay, it's giving us context from the opening scene and also characterization at the same time. Great screenplays do multiple things at once. I've realized characterization and world building at the same time, or moving the plot forward and something else. They layer things up. They do multiple things at once. That's what I've noticed from good screenplays that they do. But it's quite hard to do sometimes. So exterior Porsche day. Will approaches the front door. The retriever follows closely behind. He motions for the dog to stay. Ben slips a pair of disposable shoe covers over his feet before entering. Okay, cool. So that was the opening. Did we have anything
There
else?
was something when they underlined shoe covers. There is a moment later in the script where they say no time for shoe covers or something, like where he's like leaving, and so it's something that and even with the iris, purple iris, we later find out that that's the name of the dead sister, the sister that died in the car accident.
What, the purple iris?
I think that's why it's capitalized. Yeah, because Iris is she ends up like Mia ends up like they have like this thing on the refrigerator for names or whatever, and then they cross them off. I don't know if you guys remember that, but yeah, so these are all kind of things we revisit later, I think.
Yes, that's a great point. That's a really good point, and that's why they've highlighted it or underlined it or capitalized it, because it's all important information. Yeah, I totally forgot about that, what you said, actually. But that's a good point. Because you can't just underline or capitalize something for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Because the more times you do it, the less effective it becomes on the script, because there's no contrast. So choose wisely the things you emphasize. So obviously everything here is important.
I think circling back to what question was raised about format is like is if there's a purpose for something, then it's okay to like go outside the, not push the envelope, but go outside the guidelines, and then I'm sorry, I don't know your name. W2 World Season 2.
W Enchanter.
We call him W.E. Chanter.
Okay, well, he mentioned something, now I forget, but something regarding I'm totally forgetting now, but that's
It'll come back to you. It'll come back to you. No worries. I think this is this, so just
he mentioned it, as long as consistent. That's what that was mentioned.
Yes, what the formatting, as long as it's consistent.
Yeah, as long as like those markers are consistent. It's kind of like a wayfinding. For the script, I found it like helpful.
Yes, I agree with you. Yeah, and that's where style comes into play. Good writers have their own unique styles. So if you're consistent, you have this typical like style that people know you for, maybe. So that's what can develop if you're consistent with the way you write, with a certain way you format it. Like this style is different to other writers, 100%. But it's important to stick to it. Okay, shall I scroll down a bit and see if there's anything a bit unusual to read? I don't know if anyone had particular pages in mind. This is underlined. That's interesting. So they both wear shoe covers on their feet, and as they move together back the house, a theme materializes in the background. Every inch of wall and floor has been painstakingly covered with thick padding, sometimes foam, sometimes wool insulation. Too ugly to be an aesthetic choice, must be product of necessity. Okay, so that's clearly important as well. And
what I like about that too is like, the writer is not telling us still. They're just like laying it out for you and like maybe suggesting, because that's crucial in prose. Like trying to get out of prose is you can't be telling the story like if you're just writing a novel or something. And this, I like that about this. Just want to make a comment.
We see the effect. We see the effect that how they behave and how they live This is what makes it really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you find so? Did you say that you've written novels before, but you're kind of quite new to screenwriting? Is that what you said?
So I was writing, not published or anything. I was writing I had like a manuscript and I stopped writing for a while, and then I have some actor friends that just like, come do this like thing where it's just you write 10 pages of script, and then actors come and like act it out, and so basically I started doing that, and it got me back into writing. So I was writing a version, I was almost like adapting, but extrapolating from what I had written in my narrative, and then but I just loved it because it just forced me to like character develop, with the dialogue. It had to be dialogue driven, like material. So actors could like practice their craft or whatever. And then, and so that, and I ended up, and then I have like 107 pages of the screenplay, but
wow.
Yeah, well, I started this when I like turned 40 last year. So I've been doing this for like a year and a half, but it needs like a ton of work. It's actually because I was doing it like 10, like 10, like a scene at a time, like or 10 pages at a time, and it's kind of like all over the place. And I didn't outline, and I didn't have it in the path of like the book. So anyway, I like that, like you put on these like exercises because it gets me out of like I've been like pigeonholed to that one story. So it's good to kind of like exercise other genre muscles.
Yeah. Oh, 100% it is. Yeah.
But for this screenplay, like this is like, I love this. This is kind of how I love this, like this is like how I prefer to like, so I like that last exercise in particular because it was very similar to the ask was very similar.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. No, I think these exercises are really good, and you want to like push yourself and try these different things.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And do you know what? The other thing you said about like getting actors to perform what you've written is so important as a screenwriter. Like that's so, like you're so lucky, I think, if you can get hold of actors, and so you can see what works and what doesn't work. And my background is from being an actor in theatre as well. So when I write screenplays now, I'm writing thinking what an actor would like to perform, if that makes sense. So I always recommend to people like get your scripts read and performed by actors so you can watch it back, and also if you can try acting yourself so you understand what it feels like to read and perform good writing or bad writing. And I think, and then when you're writing yourself, you're a bit more conscious about if it's good or not, if that makes sense.
No, totally. Totally. And even if it's like a table read, if you're that far down the line with what you've written, but it's I've had pages, I've like revised pages and brought it back to the same group, and like it just like if somebody else read it or it just didn't like jive, so there's a lot of moving parts to it, but it's very helpful, and it
is. Yeah, no, it absolutely is. I think that sounds really good what you're doing, being able to get hold of.
I was thinking to bring these last 10 pages I wrote, but like I don't know that any actor knows here American Sign Language.
Yeah, and by the way, like the girl, the 8-year-old girl who is deaf in this film, she is so good. Like she's really good. She actually is deaf in real life.
Did you know? Yeah, she actually she wears a hearing aid for in real life, and she's really good. Such a good actress.
She is good.
Yeah.
Just going back to the script, I noticed by the end of page 4, clearly that was the opening sequence finished, because it says they go back to playing Monopoly in silence, title A Quiet Place. So it kind of goes full circle. It's like a little short film in itself, the first 4 pages, but that's world building and it's characterization in those first 4 pages. So that's really cool. I mean, the film probably could have started here, but we wouldn't have that added information that we've got here. That really helps the audience understand what's going on. So, yeah, I sometimes say to writers, I think of your scripts as each set piece, each sequence is like a short film in itself, and it's like sequence 1, sequence 2, sequence 3, and they're all like little short films, but they all connect, obviously.
Yeah.
Um,
And
Yeah.
they have to have their own kind of living. Like
Yeah,
they have to have their own kind of an aim, character, intention. I'm sorry, conflict. Like every sequence and every scene inside the sequences, they have to have their own kind of conflict. Make it running. Yeah.
absolutely, they do. No, that's a good point. Okay, so another thing here. So exterior porch. John motions for Mia to make a run for the shed. He signals a silent countdown with his fingers. 3, 2, 1. Mia runs for it. That's so cool. And again, you're not supposed to do this, but you read it, you can see the film.
No, but it doesn't make a difference, Ali. I don't know. I'm not really fond of it.
So do you
Because, like,
think you can just write 3, 2, 1 under each line?
yeah, like it doesn't make that sound. I think it's just I don't know. It's like a joke. I don't know. I don't personally. I do not see the necessity of it. Because,
Personally,
like,
I think it's
yeah,
sorry.
yeah,
Personally, I think it's brilliant.
brilliant.
like it.
Is it really? Really?
Yes, I like
Yeah.
the
No,
style.
I'm not really fond of it. No, I'm not.
The first time I read
Because,
it,
like,
it made
because
me.
it's a text space, it's like you cannot give that kind of a dynamics inside the script. It just for example, for a second I didn't see the one. So then Ollie said like 3, 2, 1. Then I saw I saw the last one in the corner. And it's not that fun. I didn't really agree, because, like, if even you want to make that feeling in the screenplay for like a producers or everything, you have sizzle reel, you have lookbook, you have all these things to help you to make them to see the picture. But doing things like this inside the script, I'm not really. I personally, I don't like it.
Does anyone else agree with Side?
Yeah, W is want to say something.
Oh, go on. Is it in the chat? I can't see the chat. If someone can see the chat, I mean.
No, there's nothing in the chat. Elizabeth said the monster has a sweet tooth, but it's for
That was
like
earlier. That's what I
yeah,
thought
that was
earlier with
earlier.
like the
Yeah,
chips
I
and like
know.
the candy, but now I realize it's because of the sound.
Yeah,
No, yeah, it's because of the sound. Yeah.
absolutely.
I don't agree, but somebody had their hand up.
Yeah,
Yes,
sorry.
W Center. Yeah. Are you here, W? He's not here at the time.
Oh, is he not here? Maybe his mic's not on.
Yeah, maybe.
So, Serena, were you going to say something? Sorry.
I was saying that the first time that I read this scene, I visualized the whole scene in my head, and when I watched the movie, actually it was almost the same thing. So I feel like the writer did a good job with this technique. That is just my opinion.
Yeah, but if it worked for you, that means it works. You can't argue that. It means it's a good screenplay if it works.
Yeah.
If it worked
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have something in the text, Ollie. W.E. Chanter says, I have a problem with my fucking mic.
Oh, don't worry,
Yeah.
W Enchanter. Just use the comments. Just use the
Yeah.
chat, and then
Yeah,
just
you can ask your questions or your idea in the chat, and I'll read it out.
thank you, Said.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's quite cool sometimes to read the screenplay before watching the film, because then you can read the screenplay, have an idea of what it is in your head, and then when you go to watch the film, if it is what you had in your head or similar,
Yeah.
then that is a good indicator that it was a well-written screenplay.
That is so interesting, because I totally disagree.
Yeah? Is it
Yeah.
because it's subjective, your imagination?
Yeah, maybe this is what, because, like, I've used both methods.
Okay.
So what happened when I use, because if you read in different places, they tell you to watch the film and then read the screenplay, right? So for me, when I watch the film and then I read the screenplay, I can see how the writer solved the problem of that scene.
Right.
But when I read the screenplay, And I don't know why, but for me personally, it's like I cannot click that. But when I watch the film first and then I read the screenplay, I can make the connection. I can
Wait,
see.
do you mean like how the writer, how the actor, and then the director like
No, I'm talking
articulated
about the
it?
writer. No, it's a way that in a good screenplay, how the scene make the film. This is what we're going for. This is the ending game. Evoke emotions, right? So we do emotions with what? With descriptions, with action lines, with dialogue,
Yes.
with things that we do
Best. Oh,
inside the screenplay. So when you watch the film and the film is executed in the best way possible, right? So it goes to invoke that emotion that the writer, the screenwriter, has initially intended to. So when you watch the scene and then you come and read the scene, you have better understanding of the writer operation for that scene.
Right.
And because I have done the both method, because initially I agree with you. I told myself that I should read this screenplay first and then watch the film.
Yeah.
But when I tried to watch the film and then read the screenplay, I could better understand that what was the writer trying to say,
Fine. Yeah.
how the writer solved the problem. And when I'm saying to solve the problem, is the problem of the pagecraft and the evoking emotions and that skill of making it easy and vivid and clear and concise and
Yeah.
sweet. So for me personally, I never do that. I always watch the film and then read the screenplay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I see what
yeah. So sorry. My Mac. Uh, I have
that's
a
okay.
kind of.
Is it working now?
Here you know.
You hear me?
Yeah.
I have a son. So I will. My Mac is almost repaired, but not entirely. It died while reading the screenplay.
Oh,
I'm agree with Said.
okay.
Okay, it looks cool, but what it makes to me, it put me out of the story. So I won't repeat that because the whole screenplay is like that. Well, what come next? Because before it was good, I was in, but then I'm not in anymore, and it will be like that every time. It put me out of the story, and suddenly I'm not in the movie. It's more, oh, it's like a show off. You see the writer, you see the style.
Yeah.
And I don't like to show off the style. I try to hide this. You forget you are reading. It's the experience you want when you read a novel. You
Yeah.
suddenly, oh, you are not here anymore. You forget you are reading. You are in the book.
Yeah.
10 pages later, you are in the book.
Yeah.
Oh shit, I'm reading. Uh, but each time the writer do something like that, he put you out and it's over. It's
Yeah.
over. And then I see that I manage to continue to read a bit more and he do that again. At one point, stop. I don't want to read anymore. I'm out definitively.
Yeah. So do you think having, for example, this, it takes you out of the moment, this kind of structure, the 3, 2, 1 thing, that takes you out of the moment, and that's why you don't like it.
I would
Because
say yes.
No, so it does so the opposite for me. Even when you go down, if you scroll down to, for example, there's a page where there's a list where John finds like some notes that on how they tried to like defeat the
oh,
I think it's on page 24, 25, kill attempts.
let's have a look.
And it's like, yeah, page 24. I think in the PDF it's 25.
Oh, it's
yeah.
all blurred.
Yeah, it's all
here.
Here, yeah.
Nice.
And I just think it personalizes it. It's like it draws you in. I think it's perfect. It's like you're reading it's kind of like how like graphic novels, obviously, it's kind of like I just
like
think it
that.
draws you. I just think that it draws you in more. Is it standard? No, it's not standard, obviously.
No.
But I think it draws you in. So for me, it had the opposite effect. But everyone's different, you know.
Would you be brave enough to have this kind of style in your screenplay if you were to write a story like this yourself?
Yes, I would love to
Yeah.
do that. Are you kidding me? But no, I mean, I used to love. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that anything to embellish or like enhance the feeling you have, you know, if it's like red crossed out, you know, crossed out with red. I mean, it's all part of it, you know. And this particular
Yeah.
screenplay is like, it's challenging every aspect of your senses, right? So you don't get to hear the dialogue or read the dialogue rather, but you're still able to hear things. You're still able to, you know, you're relying on your senses like above the norm, you know? And so it makes sense that they would go outside the norm and do this so you could relate to them. Like even like the diary, like
Yeah.
April's diary, it's like they put it in her script, like her handwriting, say, "Mom, Dad, don't read." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just personalizes it. I mean, that's like,
That's good.
you know, and nobody has the same handwriting. So anyway, so for me, it's a way of like painting the picture and quite literally.
Just make it clear, guys. With all these things, if it works, it works.
Yes.
Like at the end, if it works, it works.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. I'm just scrolling down because I found on this screenplay, the other version, it had a bunch of handwriting as well. I'm just trying to find it. And it wasn't too far
have
down.
the Monopoly board.
I know. God knows. I have no idea. There we go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, look at that. So it's all in different writing. So in the questions column are listed no demands, no sign of organization, blind, how many sound, why not attack all sound. In the confirmed column are phrases like 4-6 confirmed and pack, do not attack small sounds. Then we see the phrase do not eat, kill. Yeah. So and there's like crossing out. So just visualizing, you can visualize the scene. I think this is great. I don't know how I'd be able to do this myself. Like literally how I would add this in, but but I think for this type of screenplay, I think this is really cool. And like you said, Said, if it works, it works. So yeah, that's some really good points. And this one, she aims it forward and there's arrows. That's interesting. So they definitely play with the format. Was there anything in the chat? Oh no, sorry.
No.
Okay, so if I go back a little bit, oh, well, this is interesting as well. So just when the door is about to burst, Mia grabs John. She pulls him back as the monstrous form returns outside, listening and waiting for even the faintest little sound. Now, does this or does this not take you, keep you invested in the screenplay? Like, can you not see the film in your head when you read it like this?
I will tell you my exact feeling when I saw this.
Yeah.
I was like, I was in a medical cabinet, and the ophthalmologist make me do a test about vision. You know, and they say, "Oh, read the big line, then the smaller one on the smaller. Oh, I can't see the smaller one. Maybe I have 5 on 10 on one eyes." So it's mainly my feeling when I read that. Alas.
Yeah, getting your eyes tested. but that because listening and waiting for even the faintest little. So you think it doesn't really work, or because I think to me that does work. The way it's like whispering because it's all about being quiet.
Yeah, and I think it works because it made W question one of his senses. It works to another degree.
Yeah, exactly. No, I agree. So, Said, were you going to say something?
No, I was. I think it doesn't make that such a difference. But I like the creativity. I like the creativity.
Yeah, you can appreciate the creativity. Yeah. Fair enough.
I can say it really worked because just as once I wasn't anymore in the story, but in ophthalmologist cabinet.
Okay, fair enough. It's just very interesting. Yeah, so this bit, I noticed this as I was scrolling down. So let me go back up a little bit. This is like the most interesting part that I've seen so far. So we've got this whole sequence. It all comes into capitalizes it when obviously this is clearly a dramatic moment in the film. So focusing all of his energy, doing his best to not make a single sound. This is the longest walk of his life. It's such a good line, like one single line underlined. This is the longest walk of his life. And that just paints such a vivid picture, doesn't it? Just that one line. And then you scroll down, and then a whole page is used up just for this one line. John is 30 feet away from the shed, ... 20 feet away, 10 feet away, 5, snap. Like, how does that make you feel when you're reading it like this? It's so interesting. And then we go back to the normal format here. Yeah, what did you guys think of this? These few pages, how it counts down as he's doing the longest walk of his life. Does it work, or do you think it's a bit pretentious?
No, I think it's great. I like it a lot. It reminds me of like Paul Auster, you know, like City of Glass.
Oh, okay.
It reminds me of a graphic novel, but particularly that particular. I liked it. Obviously, they know how to use paid real estate properly.
Yeah.
And it almost like, instead of writing beat, you know, it almost like forces you to take a pause, walk with him. It'll, you know, it's tiresome to go through a couple pages with just but that's the whole point of it.
That's the point.
It's
That's how the
genius.
character feels. Exactly. And I would argue, controversial take, the word beat is overrated. I don't think it does the effect that you want it to do. You usually, for most of the part, when you write the word beat for like a little pause, I think doing it like this instead, where you actually
no, dude, I know what you're saying, but you should remember something, guys. This is a rule, like in the industry, the page number counts. Like for example, you say that they uses the whole screen for just a measure, right? So for example, you have like extra 5 pages with nothing, right? But
okay, go on.
if I told you that if you're not John Krasinski, and if you don't have a specific another like Emily Blunt, and you have this screenplay with the maximum of the 5 pages, and the producer would say, okay, like this is gonna be more than 120 film. This is gonna be like 125. Like, okay, you know what? I don't have the budget for that. This is just me talking loud. Okay, this is just. I'm not saying that this is not good or it's not creative or it doesn't help. It does all of these things, but they have the luxury to do that.
Okay, I hear what you're saying.
I just want to interject here for a second, because the screenwriter, the writer is like, has one job, you know, and I get like that there's a lot of industry influence. I feel like every time you have a chance, Saeed, you mention like the actors and in particular, like all these people that like, so, but remembering that, like, you know, sometimes certain mechanisms in writing don't always work, but also going outside of a standard sometimes is necessary to gauge attention, interest, controversial discussion, revisit is something here. I think people, when they're looking for a story that if it's done well, we're not coming from like the outside. I think your worry, Said, is maybe like people who are starting new are thinking, okay, we can just do this. You know, no, obviously that's not, you know, I think that's your point. Like, you know, there's got to be a story to tell, and there's got to be some practice put in first to understand the foundations and the fundamentals. Like, I totally get that, and that's really important. I just think for this particular writer, and who wrote it?
It's John. Let me scroll to the top because it tells you.
The bunch of writers. John Krasinski is one of them.
So it's
I
those
think.
two, but then it's also
But the others, yeah, the other one, and I think this is like the shooting script. Yeah.
I find it interesting. There are many writers on this.
yeah, that happens quite a lot actually in Hollywood. So the story was by these two guys, but
Yeah,
then
but the screenplay, like the
Oh,
adaptation.
that's the actor, right?
Yes.
he's the
Okay,
lead
okay,
actor.
John Krasinski. Okay, so he plays John.
Yeah.
So interesting, yeah. So, and this is the first, the which one is this? Which copy is this, Oliver?
Oh, so this is the longer version, but I
The
think
longer version. Okay.
yeah, and the shorter version it hasn't got John's name on it. It's only these two.
Okay, so obviously the shorter version is like when they picked up or pre-production when they picked it up or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We would assume that. Yeah.
That's
And then
interesting.
And they gave it to John, and then John probably maybe helped tweak it. So then he got a writing credit as well. Then
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, and how the longer script is definitely more. I don't even know if you think it's more industry standard, but I don't think it has that Monopoly map. So that image of, the Monopoly board game.
There you go.
Okay. Well, they play Monopoly twice, and then there's the one where they have a game plan for getting around where they live in the woods. So on the other screenplay, and I don't know if we're running out of time, but on the other shorter one, it's on page 29.
Okay.
Or 28.
Let's have a quick look.
Yeah, so this thing.
Oh my god.
Yeah, well, yes,
nobody read that far.
I was at my end. I think this 3 or 4 page. I'm not sure. Yes, it's work like a blue screen in Windows.
Wait, which bit? Sorry.
The 3 page. He walk 20 meter, 10 meter, 5 meter.
Oh yeah, that bit. Yeah.
Well, as Said said, when we get that, what I'm supposed to watch on screen, a guy working during 4 minutes. Wow, it's quite boring. And it ends with snap. And well, just when I see that, I think, oh, snap finger. Yes, we enter musicals now. Well, I'm definitely out of the story with that, but well, I still admire the balls of the writer. Well, of course, but well, it doesn't help to be in the mood. And we can still see in the first part of the screenplay there's many weird things, underline, cap plus underline. Well, it's when you need to be over the top of the over the top. Because when you start to cap what you can do to be more punchy or just underline, well, just after that, I need to be more over the top, just underline and bold that. And then what can you do? Just put a big picture, magnifique. Well,
I like it.
Yeah, you have to find a way to do that more naturally, so we have not lost in this, and we stick to the story, and we stay in the story, because I think the story in itself is good, but when it reaches such level of absurdity, I think it doesn't work anymore. But in an affectionate way. Well, I'd say I'd like the writer for doing something like that. Maybe he would be more comfortable with a full visual format, like the one I use, because I don't need to be excessive when I write. I put a big picture on, and I do everything I can so people stay in the story, but not out.
So yeah, just to let people know, just be clear, like W. Enchanter is for the K-drama structure. He likes to put images with your screenplays a lot, don't you? And you find that easier to read. I read some of your stuff, and I think that helps as well. So it's a slightly different format to what we do in the Western screenplays. whereas for him, he likes to put images, almost like a comic. So it's quite interesting. And actually, just speaking of comics really quickly, because Sarah, you mentioned how it reads a bit like a comic, and I think the writer did that on purpose because the story feels like a graphic novel. Like you.
So yeah, this is this the shorter version?
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I don't know if the version with John on it. I think they removed that Monopoly board.
I think they did as well. I didn't find it
So
when I
that's
typed.
because they have to. I think that's because they have to have like that's when they're giving a script to many other people. You know what I mean? Like other interested parties, and it's probably a little bit more cleaned up.
Yeah, that's probably.
But yeah, I think it definitely read like that.
Yeah.
But you don't have dialogue like in this like you at all.
No, barely at all.
So there's, you know, the conversation like relies on the audience, the reader, you know, and the writer. So like so I think that's why it feels so conversational too,
Yeah.
you know, when it's like we and things like that. But anyway, I don't know how much slotted time you had for us, but
yeah, we're gonna wrap up now actually. So
okay.
Yeah, just to conclude, I think actually Serena or Randall, did you have any final thoughts as well about overall, do you think the screenplay works? Do you like the format? And would you do something like this in your own screenplay one day?
I do like the format of the screenplay. I like the whole story, the storyline itself. I really like it.
Good storyline, yeah.
But I don't think I will format my own screenplay the way the writer did. There are just certain things that don't do it for me. But I did like the Monopoly illustration.
What, the picture?
Yes, I really liked it.
It's pretty
But
cool. I like it. I don't think producers and studios would want it though.
yes, I don't think so either. But I
No.
liked it. It's the first time that I'm seeing this in a screenplay.
Yeah.
But I also like the scene at the bathtub scene where Mia gives birth. I really like that scene. That was my favorite scene. The first time that I read
sorry, which scene?
the scene where the mom is in the bathroom giving birth, but she can't scream. She has to stay quiet.
Yes.
The first time I read it, I was really looking forward to watching it in the movie because I was stressed when I read the scene, so I wanted to see how they were going to put it in the movie.
Yeah, Emily is an amazing actress. She
Yes.
plays it amazing. She plays it amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the scene that made me want to watch the movie. Actually.
Really? That's quite interesting.
Yes.
Stop presenting. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And Sarah, you have to watch the film at some point and let us know what you think, if it's what you expected or not. But yeah, no, really good point, guys. Yeah, why not?
The whole theme with like the giving birth, like that was like I was scared. And when I read through the script, it was a very short. So of course there's nothing in the script that depicts what Emily conveys on camera, which I don't know what it is, but so that makes sense that Serena was like, yeah, I want to watch the film.
The scene though in the film is really well made, and it's one of the most iconic scenes in the film because it's got everything in it. It's got the tension, it's got the suspense, what's happening. Like, yeah, it's really good. So yeah, thank you guys so much for being here. This has been a really good call. It's been great seeing you all. Just to conclude, did anyone have any final points about the screenplay, or are we happy? And overall, is it a good screenplay or is it not a good screenplay? That's the final question.
I think its story structure is really good.
Yeah.
I just don't like the formatting that much, but otherwise, I think it's a brilliant movie. I loved it.
Yeah.
I just hope they didn't go for the sequel.
The sequel's great, and then there's another film coming out. I think next week. It's like a prequel, isn't it? That's coming out in cinema.
Yes.
So that'd be good to watch.